National Security Advisor John Bolton landed in Russia overnight. He's holding talks this morning with his Russian counterpart and other top officials there to discuss this potential major shift by President Trump. Now, Mr. Trump said over the weekend he wants to pull out of that landmark nuclear arms control agreement, accusing President Putin's government of cheating. Now, the INF Treaty, signed in 1987, prohibits the U.S. and Russia from possessing or developing intermediate-range ground-launched nuclear missiles. The Kremlin says the move would make the world a more dangerous place. And while some lawmakers agreed with the president, others warned pulling out of the treaty could spark a nuclear arms race. And while the president is warning of this move, it hasn't been made official yet, Craig, so we're watching closely.
And in Kristen, there's another move that's making waves, and it's also making headlines. The Trump administration is considering changing the definition of gender. So what is that all about?
Well, Hoda, the New York Times is reporting that the Trump administration is considering that move that would define the term transgender essentially out of existence. So the question is, how would that happen? Well, the administration would narrowly define gender as a biological condition determined at birth. That change could significantly roll back protections of transgender people under federal law. Now, the Obama administration infuriated conservatives with a series of decisions that expanded federal protections for those who are transgender by recognizing gender largely as an individual's choice and not determined at birth. It's important to note that this report is based on a leaked draft memo not seen by NBC News, which means it's subject to change. The Department of Health and Human Services tells NBC News it does not comment on leaked documents. The Human Rights Campaign said such a move would set a destructive precedent. Hoda, Craig, Savannah.
All right, Kristen Welker at the White House.
The leaf blower's working at the White House this morning.
Early, too.
Kristen, thank you.